McCord will be the first guy in the game against Indiana. Big news, not a huge shock, kind of the easy, chalky pick to make. Going to break that down. Going to break down what Ryan Day and Jim Knowles had to say today, along with what Tom Allen had to say on the other side of the field. Big time stuff. Bloody Tuesday practice today. Going to get into game planning as the hardest practice is out of the way. But first, as always, we're very thankful and grateful for you guys tuning in. Thank you guys, as always, for being a part of our network. I appreciate you guys. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little bell. It'll let you know when we go live. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. But we're going to get right to it today. Nevada Buck Kyle McCord is officially our starting quarterback for game one. Any shock at all to you on this one? It felt pretty easy, pretty chalky. The older guy, the guy who's got to start, the guy who came in with Marvin. Are you surprised at all by Ryan Day's move?
Well, I mean, look, you never say never, but we talked about this, on a number of podcasts, including, last night, talking about who was going to get the start and how we both felt that, McCord was the logical pick. But let's talk about what it means and what it doesn't mean. Okay, because I think people, when they look at these things, they want to try to put it in one of two buckets. They want to put it in the, McCord's way better than Brown, or Brown's way better than McCord, or something like that. And it's like, look, there's some nuance to this pick. And it's not that Brown was so much better that he's just throwing McCord a bone. And it's not that McCord is so much better that, he's starting over Brown because he's been more consistent or better. I don't think he's been better than Brown. But I think when you've got two guys that are kind of going back and forth, I think Brown clearly dominated the first 3 quarters of fall camp. And I think McCord was better the last week, maybe slightly, a little more responsible with the ball. I think it just makes sense then at that point, we're going to go, look, you're both going to get lots of plays. You're both going to get time with the ones. But we want to see both you guys play. And Kyle, because you've been here longer, you're going to get the start. That's what it means. So don't read more into it than that. It's not a long-term commitment to Kyle. It's not a diss on Devin. Devin knows the score. He knows he's got to go out there and ball out when the lights are on and when we're playing, on the road in front of people. And for Kyle, it's the same thing. That's what's going to ultimately decide who's going to be the quarterback when we go to South Bend in 4 weeks is – how you're doing when the lights are brightest. And like I said, so don't read too much into the decision, even though we both agree it was kind of a chalky decision. I thought it was pretty easy. It would have taken humongous cojones to say to Kyle, look, you're not starting. Devin Brown's going to start, because you risk Kyle checking out. I mean, if you're a guy that's been in this many years waiting, then you're like, oh man, I'm just never going to have a chance. You check out mentally, and now you're kind of all in on Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenel. So, I think it was the right decision. I think it was the sensible decision. And, while there was some stuff floating out there about Devin being the starter, I always felt like that was a long shot. I always felt like the smart thing to do at this point in time is start McCord, give them both an opportunity to play, and then, it'll settle itself out, and it'll be very, very obvious to everybody in just a couple of games about who's better. And we'll all know, we won't have to guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be one of those deals where they've got major there's going to be a lot of internal discussion, and honestly, the film will speak volumes these next 3 weeks. I mean, obviously, Indiana is a touch ahead of, obviously, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, but, these guys are going to have an opportunity to go out and be live, and I've talked about the advantage that mobile quarterbacks have in live situations as opposed to guys who are immobile. And maybe that will matter. Maybe Kyle will get rid of the ball quick enough that he never gets touched. But, we got 2 tackles that have 1 combined start at Ohio State. Obviously I know Jimmy Simmons or Josh Simmons, whatever his name is, has multiple, he has a dozen starts or whatever at San Diego State. But, they're going to be facing live bullets, and we're going to see how it goes. And, the thing that'll be the biggest indicator is who can move the offense the best. I mean, obviously you got to take care of the ball. You got to do all the superlative stuff. You got to make the easy plays. But who really moves the offense up and down the field? Because Devin Brown's got to get in early in this game. He's not going to be sitting there until the 4th quarter and let Kyle McCord put the baseball cap on and then go Devin. I mean, they're going to be going back and forth. And honestly, that's going to be something that'll be interesting to see how that affects Kyle McCord when he gets I'm sure they'll have like a planned hook where he's, you get the first 3 drives or whatever, and then Devin, you're in the 4th drive or the 3rd drive or whatever they're planning to do. And again, does, Kyle do a couple 3-and-outs or, or score 1 touchdown in his 3 drives? All of a sudden, Devin comes in and scores 3 touchdowns in his 3 drives. Like, it's going to be honestly the most fascinating quarterback competition that I've seen. Cardell JT it was interesting because Cardell had such a hot streak where we won the national championship, but JT was better the year before. He was better in camp, and they just had to stick with Cardell because he was the older guy and he came back. But this one I think is a lot closer. And again, Ryan Day literally said there were times where Devin looked like he was pulling away in camp, and then he might have tried to do too much, throw the ball, whatever, or throw the ball to the other team, whatever. But hey, it's going to be the talk of the town. The message board is just buzzing right now. I think that, again, take in Kyle is the easy move. He's the guy who's the older guy. He's the guy who's got to start. He came in with Marvin. He's a year older than Devin. Hey, and Devin was kind of the second choice. I mean, he was in Quinn Ewers' class originally until Quinn reclassified, and then they went and got Devin late to kind of fill that void. So it's real interesting to see how he's surged, and it'll be interesting to see if the thing I'm interested in is who starts the Notre Dame game, because that's going to be the real one. Anything else on this, Nevada? And then we can move on to the place kicker and anything else that was interesting in today's press conferences.
Well, no, I guess I want to say what I'm thinking about this, but like I feel like the fan base has completely set McCord up to fail. That's my personal opinion. I feel like McCord is kind of like every incomplete pass that he throws, every bad decision that he makes, anything. I think that a good majority of the fan base has decided that McCord's not the guy, and I just can't imagine the kind of pressure that comes along. I mean, look, there's always pressure playing at Ohio State, and you're always under the microscope, and you know that better than anybody, being an All-American and a captain in Ohio State. But man, being a quarterback where you're having every single move dissected by someone who's looking to kind of yank you down, and again, you're talking to a guy who personally thinks that Devin Brown's a better option for us long term. That's my opinion. That's not a fact. That's just my opinion. I think Devin Brown's got more upside. I think he will be the quarterback. But the idea that every little thing that McCord does is just going to – I've just seen this play out so many times with other players and other situations with the fan base. And I just think it's really – I think that they are ready to jump on McCord as soon as he does anything bad. I think it's going to be ugly. And could you see a kid like this game's at Indiana? I actually think it's better that the game's at Indiana, because if this game was in Columbus, let me ask you a question. Do you think McCord could get booed if he went out and threw 3 straight incomplete passes? Do you think you'd hear booing?
Dude, I was on the field in the 2005 spring game where they booed Justin Zwick off the field at the spring game. So, and that was after Troy caught that heater at the end of the year. We beat Michigan. I mean, I remember I was like, that's what and again, I don't mind it because it's Ohio State, dude. We eat our young around here. That is what it is. I mean, I'll say it. No one else will say it, but our fan base, they're the best damn fans in the land until you stink. And all of a sudden they're not, they'll eat you alive. And again, it's a boiler room. It ain't for everybody. A lot of guys can't handle it. That's why I always say that, look, you can be a great practice player, but until you go do it in the shoe in front of, the folks, it's a little bit different. And again, they booed Justin Zwick off the field at a spring game. So, if Kyle McCord throws 3 interceptions or 2 interceptions or, a couple 3-and-outs, oh yeah. I mean, especially because Ryan really didn't do him any favors with this commentary. He said, well, Devin Brown was in the lead at one point during camp, and then Kyle came back and they're both going to play. And because people, that really sets Kyle McCord up to be on the thinnest ice you could ever imagine with our fan base, because our fan base is thinking, well, if Devin was the leader, and I think that there's some internal paranoia because of the Haskins Joe Burrow thing, because we took Haskins, who obviously was better in 2018, went on to go play in the first round, But then Joe Burrow became just an absolute supernova. LSU becomes one of the top 3 teams ever in college football. He's going to sign a $60 million a year extension. Bengals went to the Super Bowl under his early in his career. Like, I just think people, man, they love whoever ain't playing quarterback. So it's gonna be fascinating. Again, Cardale was the toast of the town. I mean, he led us to a national title. We've had like 2 national titles since like 1970 or whatever, and he led us to one of them. And guess what? People hated him. I mean, Craig Krenzel like got booed in the stadium when we weren't playing real well and our offense wasn't good. I mean, we had the old covered wagon offense back in the day in the Tressel era, but like I'm telling you, man, like people they get frustrated and they want to know who else we got, and if you're not just absolutely shredding it like CJ Stroud did last year or Justin Fields, because that's the other thing that you have to throw into this little cocktail that we're mixing up is that the bar is so insanely high right now at quarterback at Ohio State when you see Haskins, Fields, CJ Stroud, all first rounders. And not only are they first rounders, each one got drafted progressively higher. You've got, Haskins was like around 15, Fields was 8 or whatever he was, and then Stroud's 2. So, there's like this creeper effect where, there's never been a higher level of play at, I don't think, any position than quarterback the last 5 years, just based on the draft standings. So it's going to be very interesting. I know people get very grumpy and very volatile, and they're really quick to boo and want the next guy. So it's a good time to work on a message board. I will tell you that, because it is about to be wild. Anything you disagree with there, Nevada, or is that a lot of stuff that you're just like, yeah, we can see it coming right now?
No, I can see it coming, and I'm not saying I understand it or that I accept it or whatever it is, but like when you said, hey, what if McCord throws 2 interceptions like that, I kind of, part of me gets, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying if he throws 2 incompletes, they're going to be on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be, like you said, when you use the expression, the thinnest of thin ice, that's exactly what it is. And Ryan did not do him any favors today. Ryan,
No.
I thought, put him out there on a limb, and short of McCord just balling out and being clearly better than Devin, man, people are just going to be waiting for him to fail. And fail could be like, I mean, look, I didn't go through every single one of your games, Kirk, when you played, but I guarantee you probably had bad quarters or bad series or maybe even a bad half, or you might even had a bad game that you played. You know what I'm saying? So with him, he's going to be dissected by every play. If he makes a bad play, everybody's going to see it, and everybody's going to be screaming for them to get that guy out of there. And that's just tough, man. That's tough. As the parent of a goalie in hockey, I know how much pressure comes when you have that type of position. But having the microscope on a quarterback, man, oh my goodness, it is going to be something else. And like, I get that it comes with the territory. It's Ohio State. It's big boy football. There's lots of passion and this and that. But I do not believe that McCord is being put in a position to succeed. I think if he succeeds, he has exceeded all of my expectations for him, and he's a stone cold killer, because I think it would be very difficult for anyone to succeed given kind of the parameters and the way I feel like he's being set up. And that's just my humble opinion. People can disagree or agree or whatever it is, but that's kind of how I'm viewing it from my seat.
I just think that it's going to happen. Again, people want to CJ Stroud bench after the first couple games, and we weren't exactly gangbusters when he started his career off. People wanted him benched. People wanted McCord, or there's a soft benching when they put him in for the Akron game, and CJ was held out. I mean, again, Cardale Jones won a national championship, beat Alabama in the South, which is probably the most, if it's not the biggest win, other than the national championship games, like, people revere beating Alabama in the South just because of all the trash the SEC talked, and Urban Meyer got the monkey off his back for Saban. And that next year when he came back and we were kind of stinking it up with a loaded offense, they wanted him gone. They wanted JT in there, and then JT hangs around and they want JT gone. I remember in 2013, people wanted Braxton Miller benched for Kenny Guyton, which is crazy. And like, Braxton has more talent in his big toe than Kenny has in his whole body. And I love Kenny Guyton. Kenny Guyton's one of the greatest kids I've ever been around. but come on, like who's got more talent? Who's got more ability to take us to the promised land? It's obviously Braxton, but that's just what it is, man. And I'm telling you, I can't wait to see how it goes because like I hope that they both ball out. I hope that the quarterback play is A plus like it has been through the Ryan Day tenure. But man, I'm telling you, there's so many layers to this because I just think that there's still people that come back and say that Joe Burrow should have been the starter over Dwayne Haskins. And, I mean, in 2018, when they both started, like when Joe was at LSU, like Joe wasn't good at LSU. He was hoping just to be like a 7th round pick that next year. And then he ate the limitless pill and became the greatest college quarterback of all time for a single season. But yeah, I think it's going to be completely fascinating. Nevada, do you think Kyle McCord starts the Notre Dame game?
I mean, it's unknowable, but if I had to, you're like, hey, you got to put your money on one person or another. I'm betting it on Devin Brown. I think Devin Brown will be the guy, the starter. Um, I hate kind of hanging that on him. And like I said, it's so unknowable because it's really going to be predicated upon what happens in these games. And not if anybody can predict the future on that, let me know because we'll make a lot of money in Vegas on the next 3 weekends. But I think it'll be Devin Brown. I just think he's just a more naturally talented quarterback. And the first thing you said in this when we got on this podcast was talking about you breaking in a couple of new tackles, having a guy that's a little bit more mobile. I mean, I wouldn't you put Kyle McCord in the immobile category. He's on a statue. He's not Ben Roethlisberger. He's not Tom Brady from a non-fleet of foot standpoint. But Devin's much more athletic, and Devin moves around better. Devin's got a better pocket presence. And do I think that'll make a difference with this offensive line? Heck yeah. I think it'll make a difference with any offensive line, but certainly one where you're breaking in 2 new tackles. So I give the edge to Devin, but let's see him play. I mean, that's the best thing of all is seeing him play. And this game against Indiana, I mean, look, it's not a complete joke because you're not playing, whatever team, but it's a road Big Ten game to start off the season, and I've seen a struggle like on the road in Big Ten games to start the season. So I remember we played Minnesota a couple of years ago, and if that running back doesn't shred his knee, I'm not sure we win that game. So I'm not saying Indiana could do that same thing to us, but hey, let's get this game. Let's have a good performance. Let's have both quarterbacks play well, and then we'll get on to week 2. But yeah, my bet would be Devin Brown in South Bend in week 4. What's your prediction?
I mean, I'd go Devin Brown just because I think that, the teams that we're going to play, I mean, Youngstown State really won't be able to do anything. Western Kentucky's going to throw it a lot. But, I mean, Indiana's going to come after us. I mean, when you have a new center, 2 new tackles, you have to blitz. You have to get after them. You have to make it, you can't, when we have better players than they do, like Ohio State has demonstrably better players than Indiana, you have to move. You have to blitz. You have to stunt. You have to create confusion. You have to do something to try to level the field. It's really hard to do, but their co-DC, who's not their play caller, is Matt Garriani, who worked for us last year. He's a Jim Knowles disciple. He's a guy that, went with Kevin Wilson to be his defensive coordinator at Tulsa, and he was there for a couple of weeks, and Indiana called and offered him a job, and he left Kevin Wilson behind, and he's at Indiana now. So he's not the play caller, but he's the safeties coach. He's a co-DC. He knows our scheme defensively, and he knows our personnel offensively. So, he obviously doesn't know Jimmy Simmons, but, he knows Carson Hinsman. He knows Josh Fryer. He knows the guards. He knows, and again, you could know it, and if guys are just way better, he knows everything Marvin Harrison can do, and there's not anything he can't. There's no magic potion you can give your cornerback to check Marvin all night. But he knows what Ryan Day likes to call an offense. He was literally in the staff meetings for a year. He was in all the breakdowns. Like, he knows what the tendencies are, and the guy he really knows is Jim Knowles. So if there's a side of the ball he could help, it'd be Indiana. Again, they don't have the personnel to really mess with us, but when the other side knows what the head coach or the coordinator that's the play caller likes to do, it can be disruptive. Dan Mullen in 2010 with Mississippi State beat Urban Meyer, and Dan Mullen knew Urban like the back of his hand and did a lot of stuff to mess with him, knew how to get him out of certain fronts, out of certain offensive sets. how to show zero blitz, which is something where Urban had an automatic check, so he'd show it, get out of it, and it confused their offense. I mean, there's little things that you can do, and it's going to be interesting to see how much of an effect that has. Now, it'll probably end up being 77-10, and none of this will mean anything, but it's always a small cause for concern when a guy that was incubated with you for an entire year is now on the other sideline, and he's actually in like a real role. Like he's a co-coordinator. He's not like he's some janitor or some personnel guy. Like he's a legit like in a major role, and it's going to be fascinating to see if that does anything. I don't think it will. I don't think Indiana's got enough. I mean, they don't have the horses. They've steadily declined since the Kevin Wilson era when they were really, really good for Indiana. Again, it's all relative. They're not Bama, Georgia, but like, for Indiana, they were really good under Kevin Wilson, and they've gotten worse and worse under the new guy, who is a defensive guy. So it'll be interesting to see how this all folds out. Any surprise in the kicking game? Parker Lewis, I was going to say Parker Fleming, was not named the kicker. The kickoff guy from last year, Jaden was, or surprised me a little bit. Was that surprising to you, Jaden Fielding was?
Yeah, very, very. I mean, you're talking about a transfer kicker coming in from USC. A guy that they wanted out of the portal. They bring the portal kicker in, and then they give it to Jaden, who, like I said, handled kickoffs for us. Kid out of Texas, played at IMG Academy in Florida after a couple of years in Texas playing football. So good kicker, but completely untested. Has never scored a point in college, and we talked about those concerns and what those areas of where the potential trip ups are, and field goal kicking. You get a field goal kick blocked, you miss an extra point, you miss a big kick, whatever it is. It just changes everything. It changes your play calling. It changes, how you're attacking the other team. It affects your kind of your psyche and your certainty as the thing goes down there. So, I mean, I'm concerned about it just because anytime you've had a kicker that's never kicked before in college and he's your starting place kicker, yeah, this was definitely a surprise, and certainly concerns too strong of a word, but certainly something I'm going to be watching very, very carefully when they line them up is how well he's striking the ball, where the ball's ending up in the net when they go, and hopefully that we're getting them off quickly, getting the snaps down, protecting the guys, and not having a repeat of Penn State where they pulled our guard out of the hole and ran a guy through there, blocked the kick, and beat us in one of the brutal losses of the Urban Meyer era.
Yeah, and again, field goal kicking never matters until it matters. And, we lost the national championship because we couldn't hit a 48-yard field goal, which, at Ohio State, that you should be able to find a guy that can hit a 50-yarder. But, I mean, Noah, God bless him, he never did. He did a nice job for us, but, he's not an NFL guy. He's not in the league. I don't even think he got a tryout in the league. So, I think we need to be better at kicker. We need to recruit better kickers, frankly. And so this will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of range he has, his consistency. He was, again, the kickoff guy. I still don't understand why we have like a kickoff guy in college. I get when you're Matt Vinatieri and you're 45 years old and you're still kicking, they have, the punter kickoff. But, last year we had a kickoff specialist, and then we also had a field goal kicker. I was like, well, can't we just get one guy who has a huge leg who can do both? Because Michigan seems to be able to find a guy like that, like constantly. They can drill it, between the uprights for field goals and also for kickoffs. Just kicks it out of the end zone. So it's going to be one of those things that'll be really interesting to see how he does, and if he struggles, do they go to Parker Lewis? And Parker Lewis has been here for 2 years. He's at SC. He's a transfer in. Seems like a great kid. It'll be interesting to see. Do we stick with this kid? Does Parker Lewis help in and kick off or do anything? But I'm really excited to see what they look like. What unit are you most interested to see as we head into Indiana, Nevada?
Well, I mean, it's if I had to pick one, it's probably the offensive line. The offensive line, like you said, they're going to face a variety of different blitzes. I mean, Indiana's got to bring the house. They know that that's their only chance to steal the game or even keep the game close, is to bring pressure, create a turnover, create a sack, create some negative plays, and how well can our guys get? This is really going to be a test for Justin Fry in terms of how well he's done getting these guys ready. How quickly can he kind of meld them into a cohesive unit? the talent's there, just they lack the experience. So I'm going to be watching the offensive line very carefully, and hopefully we get off to a fast start. And as you said a million times, hopefully they put them in good spots. They run some constraint. They don't allow the defense to just tee off and just beat these guys to death, because there are things you can do to make it life easier on offensive line. But let's hope that they've figured that out and dial a few of those things up, because I saw, it looks like they've got all the coaches are on the sideline. Everybody wants that sideline television time. So you got everybody on the sideline and nobody up in the booth. And they literally like threw up in the booth, like, a couple of interns and like coach 8, 9, and 10 are up in the booth. So clearly they don't prize having guys up at the booth for whatever reason. And that's kind of a mystery to me. Don't understand it. Not sure why they're doing it, but that's where we're at. Brian Hartline, the co-offensive coordinator, is not offensive coordinator. He's coaching wide receivers, so he's back on the sideline. And I don't know how – is there any offensive coordinator at any level of football that coaches wide receivers and stands on the sideline that you could think of?
No chance. I mean, I think that you need, like, there's certain positions like receiver and offensive line. You need those position coaches down on the field because they have to manage 5 guys. The O-line is 5 guys every play. Receiver is 3, 4 every play. Daryl Hazel was always down. Jim Bolin was down. Ed Warner was down. Finally, in 2015, they finally put Ed up in the booth where he needed to be the whole time. But yeah, I've never seen a team that has 2 coordinators, Justin Fry and Brian Hartline, both be down on the field. They're putting Keenan Bailey up there and Corey Dennis, and I don't know. I mean, those guys have probably been in the booth, maybe, but I don't think they put Joel Philbin up. I don't think they put and I don't know if they could put him on a headset just because he's a QC. Like, I don't know what the rule is on that, but when I was a QC, I had a headset. I know that. And they got Todd Finch down there. But that's part of the deal with Ryan being the quarterbacks coach is he wants to be talking to the quarterbacks in between drives. So he's going to be over there kind of taking Corey Dennis's spot, and you put Corey up, and they got the O-line GA up there. But yeah, like I said before, it was always me, Tom Herman or Jim Bowman. So it was me, the play caller, and then whoever were usually the tight ends coach or whoever. It was we had Doc Trussell up there the one year, and then we had Tim Hinton up there, who was the tight ends coach at the time. So, you always have like your main play caller up there. But Ryan's the play caller, and that's fine. He's done a fantastic job doing it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Brian's going to be calling any plays this year unless it's like the third quarter against Youngstown State. But yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see what they get out of Keenan and what they get out of Corey Dennis up there. And I think those guys they can do fine. And you've got Mike Solani up there, who's kind of Justin Fry's eyes in the sky for what's going on with the defensive fronts. Because I'm telling you, when you're down on the field, you can't really see what's going on. I know that sounds crazy because you're like, well, how can you not see what's right in front of you? I mean, you can see it from field level, but that's not an optimal way to watch a game from a strategic manner. When you're up in that box, man, you're up high, and like I said, the big thing is you get 3 replays. You get to watch it. You get to watch it live. Kind of take a mental note of what you saw. Then you get to watch it on the Jumbotron. Then you get to watch it on ESPN. And on ESPN, you get the full camera, wide angle. It's kind of like when you guys are watching it at home. And it's always on about a 15-second tape delay. So, you can always catch that after the Jumbotron. So you could really get a good picture of everything that you're seeing. And again, that is so humongous because, Justin Fry is going to ask Mike Solani, hey, is this what we got? And he's going to be like, yes, 1,000,000% sure. This is what it is. Okay, well, let's fix it. Let's get on the grease board and in front of Donnie Jackson and Carson Hinsman and talk to those guys and get things fixed. Because that's how good teams get better as the game goes on. It's not, people always talk about second half adjustments. It's like, no, like second series adjustments. Because when those guys come off in between series and they're sitting on that bench, you better be fixing anything that they got wrong, and you better be talking through any blitzes they got, any fronts they got, any difference off. Again, that's like the Virginia Tech game in 2014 was one of the classic massacres in Ohio State history because we couldn't adjust to the bear front. And I was sitting in the stands that night, and I was like, I can't believe that we can't adjust to this bear front. Like, we used to practice that all the time, and I'm sure they practiced it, but for whatever reason, like, they couldn't get it conveyed to the offensive line how to block it. And we also couldn't really complete a pass. So it was just like it was like you're watching a horror movie. It was like you're watching Freddy Krueger walking up on the helpless victim, and that's what it felt like when I was watching that in the stadium that night.
Yeah,
Anything else of that?
Kurt,
Go ahead.
have we ever had less experience in the booth than we do this year?
No,
Has there ever been?
no.
No.
I mean, we got two young guys in there that I don't know if. I mean, I don't. I think Corey's been up. I think Corey was up last year. Keenan wasn't, because Keenan was still like a whatever he was, a QCGA assistant director to Ryan Day or whatever they put him as. So it's going to be interesting to see, how they do, because it's a big deal to be up there, because man, you really got to be on point. You really got to get it right, and they really got to trust you. So I think it's going to be super interesting. Well, with that being said, I think we're going to wrap this one up. Appreciate you guys as always. The quarterback controversy is about to be raging on, and the only place to really follow is BuckeyesScoop.com. We've been crushing it, and our site is going absolutely crazy right now. So if you are not a member of BuckeyesScoop.com, now is the perfect time to subscribe. It's been a fantastic ride on here, and I'm telling you, it is jumping on our message board right now talking about this quarterback controversy. So love for you guys to join. We appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little dinner bell, and it'll let you know when we go live. So we appreciate you guys as always. Shout out where you guys are from in the comments. Let me know who you think is going to be starting the Notre Dame game, because I think it's going to be Devin Brown. Be interesting to see how these guys tear it up over the next 3 weeks. I'm really excited to see how they work on Saturday. That being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.